two things I know about Solomon Grundy. Or no, three things I know about Solomon Grundy.
My name is Russell Nohelty. I'm a USA Today bestselling author, most probably popular for my anthology series, Cthulhu is Hard to Spell, and also the comic books that I've created, Ichabod Jones' Monster Hunter, Katrina Hates the Dead, and Pixie Dust.
Hi, I'm Michael Tanner. I'm a writer, best known for Junior Braves of the Apocalypse and Orcs in Space. Also, I host a podcast called Burn After Pitching.
Well, monsters haven't influenced my work. I guess I have to say demons. Like I was born Catholic, and that influenced a ton of my growing up. And my first books were apocalypse books with demons and monsters, and so they've always had a special place in my heart. I really enjoy like flipping tropes using demons and other like Christian mythology monsters. But yeah, they're definitely the first love of my monster life.
For me, it's always going to be zombies. They were the first monster that traumatized me. I remember very clearly as a kid being over visiting my uncle at his house, and he had a movie on. The adults are all talking. I'm a kid, I have nothing to do, so I'm watching the movie on TV, and this image, this zombie bites this woman in the neck and tears a chunk out of her neck, bright red blood, traumatized me. It was over a decade later that I found out that movie was Romero's Dawn of the Dead, and that made me very obsessed with zombies for a long time, watching zombie movies. And then, my first big comic book work was a zombie book. So zombies are always going to be my number one monster, which is interesting in that it's the most basic monster at all. It's just a dead person.
But isn't that super like that? Like a human brought down to its like basis instinct is like the most terrifying thing that I could think of.
Because it's the most real. It's the most realistic monster, because all it is something that actually happens, just one extra step.
So I love Solomon Grundy's characterizations in the animated universe. I like him considerably less in the DC universe, where he's usually a straight villain. I think he's a lot more nuanced in the animated versions of him. And I mean, I tend to like the animated versions of all the DC characters more, because like there's not 100 years of 80, however many years of backstory that they have to like stay in continuity for. But this character, what I always love is that he wears a suit jacket, and like he's such a dapper like zombie, reanimated zombie, but he's also he's dapper for a zombie, but like disheveled for any other like thing that exists in the DC universe. So I would really like to meet his tailor. I guess that's really where this comes down to, is I would like to have a discussion with Solomon Grundy's tailor.
All right, Solomon Grundy. Two things I know about Solomon Grundy. Three things I know about Solomon Grundy. One, he is basically a zombie. Two, I own one comic that he appears in, and that is a copy of, I believe it's a DC book called Infinity Incorporated, which is like a solid third tier superhero team in DC from the 80s and maybe early 90s, where Solomon Grundy appears in one panel, and it's a big reveal that Solomon Grundy is there. I only have that issue. I don't have the next issue. I don't know what else happens in that story. I remember the art being great and being by someone who I can't remember, but I think it was an early work of theirs, and they became big after working on Infinity Incorporated. But so that's the second thing I know. The third thing I know about Solomon Grundy is he is name checked in the Crash Test Dummies Superman song, which is one of my favorite Crash Test Dummy songs. Everyone remembers the song, but no, they have a song about Superman, and it is a freaking great song about Superman. And the line goes, Clark Kent didn't make any money saving the world from Solomon Grundy. And that's what I know about Solomon Grundy. 3 things.
This one I do know a lot about because I just read the entirety of the Hellboy run and learned that it is much more compartmentalized than I remembered it when I read it before. So I am a sucker for like Lovecraftian stories, and with Hellboy at the helm of like the Hellboy being like the monster, like a monster lead, just was everything for me. But I have to say, they don't dive into like Hellboy as like the backstory of Hellboy nearly as much as I thought. Like I remember it being like such a rich tapestry of the backstory, but really it's Hellboy goes to investigate a thing, punches a bunch of stuff, and then like it's over, and then like it repeats. And I was surprised at how few of the volumes like had Mike Mignola as the artist or even as the writer. Like he didn't even write the first volume of Hellboy, and so it feels, in good way, it feels like just a ton of writers coming together and artists coming together to like make this universe. But in another way, each story feels so compartmentalized in and of itself that it doesn't lead to a bigger narrative, which I know not everything has to lead to like a big, like revealing, like amazing narrative, like, and not everything has to be Y the Last Man or Saga or any of that stuff. Some things can just be like fun, horror stories where a monster goes to investigate stuff in the way that Lovecraft's stories used to work. And so I love Hellboy. I think the art and the character design is amazing. I think that what the reveal of it throughout time is great. I just wish there was more of the backstory and less, maybe a little bit more like serialized throughout. They do a little bit of serialization towards the end, and especially when he goes like in hell and all the other stuff, like they do more of that. But how could you not love that design? And like the red design against all of the panels of Hellboy, where they're like the green muted or gray muted, and you have this like Hellboy that just stands out. It's an amazing concept. It's an amazingly drawn and amazingly put together. And despite all of the things that I just said, I still love Hellboy, and I will always love Hellboy.
Now, truth be told, I actually haven't read much Hellboy. Mostly what I know is just kind of like picked up from the movies and people talking about the books. I think I've only read maybe 2 or 3 Hellboy stories. But man, you can't deny that he is iconic looking in terms of like his design. And that's something with Mike Mignola that I think we don't talk enough about, is that he is the master of minimal line work. The way he can convey a character, like he can draw a character's face using like maybe 5 lines, but you know exactly who that character is. And I remember appreciating that when he did a fill-in issue of X-Force back in the 90s, which like, this is Liefeld X-Force, where you're like Cable with pouches and shoulder pads and guns and stuff. And he could draw Cable's face with like literally like 2 little dashes for eyes, a little squiggle for a mouth, like a crooked line for a nose, and just a few lines for his hair. And you're like, of course that's Cable. That looks exactly like Cable. So he's just this master of this minimal art. And when you translate it into like Hellboy and these like kind of monsters, and like this particular image that we're looking at, like those skulls with their like round eyes and their simple lines, they're like perfectly creepy, but yet somehow also cartoony skulls, and like the bat creature is like vomiting. I don't know what's going on there, but just like very simple designs that look so complex and really like tell your eye to like look at all these details. Like you're looking at some real freaking art, man. Like that's what I'm saying about this image. Is this is like, I'm not a huge Hellboy fan, but if I walked into someone's house and they had this framed up on the wall, I'd immediately think that person was the coolest person in the universe. This is so good.
I'm Russell Nohelty, USA Today bestselling author of Cthulhu is Hard to Spell, which I'm actually the editor of. I didn't write that. I'm the editor of the Cthulhu is Hard to Spell anthology series, creator and writer of Ichabod Jones' Monster Hunter, and the God's First Chronicles. You can find all of my stuff at russellnohelty.com.
I'm Michael Tanner, co-creator of Junior Braves of the Apocalypse, co-writer of Orcs in Space, host of the podcast Burn After Pitching. Please visit me on my website, which is bymichaeltanner.com.